Hey there. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Tonight, I'm going to tell you what are the top 5 crazy fan theories about classic kids shows that might be true. There's a special place in our hearts for our favorite childhood shows. Looking back, many of us have fond memories of sitting on the couch, maybe with a bowl of cereal, and watching Saturday morning cartoons, or on Friday nights, or simply weekdays after school, as networks began to fully embrace the power of kids programming and create channels exclusively for the younger generation. We argue about whether Disney or Nickelodeon shows were better, and ponder why cartoons featuring anthropomorphic creatures were so captivating. And we're delighted that the power of the internet now allows us to nostalgically discuss and commemorate the programs we grew up with. Discover the dark and weird possibilities behind your favorite shows from childhood.
1. The Simpsons are trapped in a time loop.
The longest-running primetime television show, The Simpsons, has made a huge mark on popular culture over its 28 and counting seasons. In addition to crossover episodes with the likes of Family Guy, Futurama, and even live-action shows like The X-Files, the cartoon has, allegedly, predicted the future on more than one occasion. While the characters remain frozen in time. Though it's not common practice for animated shows to age up their cast, as they are fortunate to be able to not do so, fans have speculated that Bart, Homer, and everyone else in Springfield are actually the only ones in their planet Earth who haven't changed with time. Known as the Tesseract theory, the idea is that Springfield exists on a plane that is able to shift throughout the rest of the world, be in more than one place at once, and grow and shrink in size. The theory also explains that people are unable to age in Springfield, but when characters move elsewhere, this changes. This proposed phenomenon is explained more fully here, but there is much more speculation out there, if you go looking for it.
2. The Count on Sesame Street is feeding on the kids.
While most of the shows on this list are cartoons, Sesame Street, as arguably the most formative children's program on television, certainly deserves a place here. Airing on PBS for 46 years, the live-action puppets and their human friends made their way over to HBO earlier this year. Throughout its extensive run, there have been plenty of changes to reflect the time, and characters have been added and altered. One such Muppet is Count Von Count, who likely has some form of OCD, due to his inability to do anything without counting everything around him. Though there are quite a few monster Muppets, the Count is the only one who really gives off a creepy vibe. So some fans have concocted a theory. Perhaps the Count, a vampire in the likeness of Count Dracula, hangs around Sesame Street so he can feed off the blood of the many children who frequent it, and that's why most of them don't last more than a few episodes. But what say you about all of the adults who live there? That's addressed, too, they're under his spell. So how about it, former child actors, can you tell me how to get off Sesame Street alive?
3. Scooby-Doo was part of a Soviet government experiment.
Another show that began in 1969, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, was the first incarnation of their beloved cartoon dog and his human pals. The gang loved to solve crimes, but what if there was a mystery beyond the mysteries? After all, while Velma, Fred, and Daphne were logical thinkers, Shaggy, not so much. They never did have a response when someone would ask, "How do you have a talking dog?" One rated as the answer. Scooby-Doo was part of Soviet experimentation during the Cold War, in order to prepare him to be sent into space. This actually happened. Dogs were used in the "50s during the space race in order to spare human lives. The theory goes on to say that the scientists were trying to create a hyper-intelligent dog, perhaps one that could even communicate what he was seeing. But a kind researcher took pity on the pup, and fled with Scooby to the US. There's a lot more to this one, but consider this: why was the government always foiling the gang's plans? Maybe because they had a valuable commodity on their hands, in the form of a pooch who might know some USSR secret intelligence.
4. The Magic School Bus kids grew up to be the Planeteers.
This theory is unique in that it involves not one, but 2 popular 1990s kids shows. In fact, the programs have a few similarities. Both were educational in nature, with Captain Planet and the Planeteers focusing on environmental issues, while the Magic School Bus ran the gamut from health to history. Each is set to be brought back in some fashion during this era of single-quote 90s reboots. And both featured a multicultural group of kids learning from their adventures. In fact, maybe these characters were a bit too similar. Proposed by someone on Facebook several years ago, the Mary Sue once attempted to elaborate on this possibility. Maybe Miss Frizzle was actually Gaia, and she brainwashed the children with a desire to help save the planet, then wiped their memories, and used them in her mission once they were older. Other details to this theory include the missing kids, Ralphie, Janet, and Phoebe are all accounted for, Pakeisha is Mia, but there are still elements to be disputed. For one thing, the Magic School Bus ran from 1994 to 1997, while Captain Planet began years earlier, in 1990. Oh, and Wikipedia states, without citation, that Carlos is Mexican-American, while his Planeteer counterpart, Mati, is Brazilian.
5. Pokemon's Ash is in a coma and dreaming everything.
One would have to be completely off the grid to not know at least a little bit about Pokémon. After all, the sweeping craze that was Pokémon Go this summer was just the latest addition to the franchise that includes playing cards, video games, and multiple films and TV series, and that celebrated its 20th anniversary this year. Beginning with the Pokémon anime series in 1997, fans have followed the adventures of Ash Ketchum along with his friends and trainers as he attempts to become a Pokémon master by catching all of the creatures. A very extensive theory which can be read in its entirety on the Dark Fan Theory Wikipedia. Creepypasta speculates that when Ash was struck by lightning in an early episode of the original show, he fell into a coma, and the entirety of the series has taken place inside his head. There are many aspects to this. Different characters represent various parts of his psyche, or ailments that his body is battling. And if Ash were to realize his state, he would suffer brain damage. But he can survive and come out of his coma as he defeats all obstacles that come his way. Seems like a lot of trouble for a simple, animated world, but maybe the creators had more in mind than meets the eye. I know also some theories that make my mind blown away. For example, the Care Bears are voodoo gods, Inspector Gadget is actually Dr. Claw, the Smurfs are little cartoon bigots, Charlie Brown is dying of cancer, the Winnie the Pooh characters represent forms of mental illness, Curious George is God, the Flintstones actually live in the post-apocalyptic future, SpongeBob and his friends are the 7 deadly sins, the fairies in the Fairly Odd Parents are Timmy's antidepressants, and lastly, Rugrats takes place in Angelica's head. But the web also brings out the weird and dark in people. If you spend a lot of time thinking about almost any kid's show, you're bound to draw some bizarre conclusions when trying to relate them to the real world. There are theories floating around out there about every child's program you can think of, especially on Reddit, and some of them really make you think. Could there have been a deeper, more sinister meaning behind these beloved hits? That's all for tonight. I hope you like my video. Thank you for watching. Bye.